On this episode of AutoAudiography, it may be the time that I lose. Fan is way too strong of a word. I may lose respect, possibly, from people who maybe value my musical opinion, because I may say some things that are not only personally people might not agree with, but overall, in the grand spectrum of things, it's not a very popular opinion. But first, the album today that I'm speaking of is John Lennon, Plastic Ono Band, 1970 on Apple Records. This is after he put out a few experimental albums with Yoko Ono. And before I get into this, I need to say the popular opinion that the unpopular opinion that I have is I'm not a Beatles fan. I don't like the Beatles. It's not that I dislike the Beatles. It may be because I heard them so often when I was younger. They were always being played, and it was just one of those things where it was too much. There's still certain songs that I'll hear that I enjoy, but for the most part, I mean, it's just I won't go out of my way to listen to it. If there's another option, I'll choose that. Respect the Beatles greatly for what they did. I appreciate what they did for music, for rock and roll in general, but don't really like them. Okay, maybe one or two people who didn't just immediately cut this off at that last point can hear me speak of this album. And the video is less about this album as a whole and more kind of just about pretty much one song on this album. I enjoy the whole album thoroughly now, but there was one song that made this album important to me, and that is Working Class Hero. Working Class Hero to me is a masterpiece of a song, and my father introduced me to it when I was very young. We always listened to it together, and it may have been the first time I ever connected with a song with somebody else, and that somebody else being somebody who meant a lot to me. My father played a big role in my life. Then the message that Working Class Hero sends also is very dark, very different than a lot of the stuff my dad was listening to. This whole album is dark, pretty much. John Lennon was going through a lot of primal therapy. A lot of the lyrics on this deal with a lot of parent and child relationships. He was extremely, extremely depressed at the time this album was recorded. A lot of comments say, like a lot of the producer, somebody mentioned that the whole recording of this, he couldn't even leave the house. He was just utterly depressed and just devastated by everything. There was a demo he recorded of the song God off this album where he actually used the phrase, "I don't believe in Beatles," which is pretty telling of where he was mentally at this point. Well, here's the front. This is not, I actually found this at a record store, and it's not in very good condition, but it still plays and it sounds good. It's just black vinyl. And I like the almost simplistic artwork here. But I've always, if there was one Beatle I had to relate to, it would be John Lennon. I always saw, when I see pictures of John Lennon, when I hear stories of John Lennon, I think of my father a lot. My father, hippie, just straight, peace, love, all that, but has his demons, as I feel John Lennon did. Struggles with the constant love that you want to exude because life keeps you down and you have these other things affecting you mentally that don't really allow you to give all the love you want to give, or the world doesn't give it back to you and you become almost fed up with it. It would be interesting to see what John Lennon would be like today, but I have the next best thing, which is my father, who he is kind of fed up with the world right now. He's fed up with the love he's put out past years. He thinks he's not getting it back. I mean, he does have demons affecting him, which kind of inhibit people from giving him this love. I struggle a lot personally with my relationship with him because of his demons. but I will always think of him with this song. And for all intents and purposes, my dad was the working class hero. I mean, everybody who's out there in the working class is a working class hero who is just working to provide for your family, as dark as the song makes it seem. But that song to me, still when I listen to it, it immediately takes me back mentally. It takes me back. My heart goes back to the first time I heard it, listening to it on a mixtape that my dad had. I think it was track 2. Right, the first track was Ohio. I think that's Neil Young. I think that's Neil Young. I don't want to be positive. I think Ohio by Neil Young was first. Third was possibly a Zeppelin song or something. I don't know. But coming into this album as an adult, if you will, as somebody who matured a little bit more, and listening to it and seeing and almost feeling the darkness within it, the song "Working Class Hero" fits perfectly in here. It was out of context for me when I heard it amongst other songs and kind of not explained to me. So I kind of put my own idea to that song throughout the years. And Working Class Hero always meant something different to me. When I hear it in the context of this album, I understand it more. I realize I was kind of close with my explanation, but it's not quite so. But that I will always go back to that. In addition to John Lennon, I always saw my dad as a mixture of John Lennon and Hulk Hogan, if that makes any sense. And my dad's not muscular; it's just kind of the attitude, the charisma, if you will. I mean, John Lennon had his own charisma, but it's a different kind of charisma. So not only does John Lennon make me think of my dad, not only does Working Class Hero make me think of my dad, but kind of anytime I hear the voice, anytime I hear John Lennon's voice, anytime I hear a song that even has a slight riff that's similar to Working Class Hero, or I found out on here, Mother, I believe, is on here. Like I said, I've investigated. Hold On is on here. Isolation. I've investigated this album a lot. I've given this album a lot of playthroughs because I really wanted to feel how Working Class Hero fits in with the rest of the album, and it is seamless almost. This album was given rave reviews. It's considered one of John Lennon's greatest solo albums, and I don't think enough people have listened to it, especially Beatles fans. Maybe there is some animosity if they see Ono in anything because Yoko Ono broke up the Beatles, whatever. But I think if you're a Beatles fan, this is a continuation of what the Beatles kind of did to John Lennon mentally. And kind of he's run down, he's depressed, it's dark, it's very brooding. You can feel just the disgust almost with everything and every song, but yet he's still trying to force that love through that dark muck. It's a very interesting album. It could almost be a concept album, but I loved this album. Makes me think of my father. That's not always the best thing, but in this case it is. Makes me think of some good times, and I don't know what else to say about this. I'm surprised I chose this one. I don't even know why. It was a last minute grab. I grabbed it. I said, I'm going to do this one. And Working Class Hero remains one of my favorite songs of all time, as emotional as it makes me now. Before, when I listened to it, it was like, okay, yeah, this is a great song. It's a great song. Now I hear it differently, and I listen to it differently, and I feel it differently. And I'm not going to say I dislike that feeling, but I kind of wish I had the other feeling back. Kind of the ignorant feeling, the in a bliss almost, if you will, because I didn't know what life was. Do I maybe have anger towards the track because it tried to make me know what life is before I needed to? Yeah, a little bit. And that animosity and that anger is probably shifted towards my father a little bit too, for allowing me to listen to the song and seemingly making me grow up faster than I needed to. There were many other things that did that, but John Lennon Plastic Ono Band. If you like the Beatles, if you don't like the Beatles, at least listen to Working Class Hero. If you listen to this album, what you think? Let me know. If you listen to this fresh, let me know what you think of it. Or just what you think of Working Class Hero. Thank you.